is AM Agenda.
Hello and welcome to the program. This morning, the sad news of another asylum seeker tragedy at sea. A boat with more than 170 people on board has sunk off the south coast of Java. Around 60 people, including several children and a baby, are dead or missing. Initial reports were that there was one dead. News Limited, Paul Tui, their correspondent in Java, has updated his report now from the scene, and he says that, well, as I say, 60 people, including several children and a baby, are feared dead after this asylum seeker vessel sank off the south coast of Java overnight. To discuss this and the other issues of the day, joining me this morning, Labor Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, Ed Husic, and also Liberal MP Josh Frydenberg. Ed Husic, another tragedy as we go to air this morning. Yeah,
it's awful. These are the type of things that and the issues that come from it, Kieran, that I saw firsthand when I was on the parliamentary inquiry that investigated the tragedy at Christmas Island back in 2010, and it certainly formed a very firm view in my mind that we needed to do what we could to stop people making this journey. And now we hear these reports from this morning, and just terrible news, and it underscores the need for us to have an effective regional answer to this issue. And it's one of the reasons why I so strongly support the announcement about the refugee resettlement agreement with Papua New Guinea, to ensure that there is an incentive for people smugglers to push people on these really dangerous vessels.
Ed Husic, we've seen a number of these tragedies in just the last couple of weeks. This one, the worst in terms of the scope. If these numbers, if these initial reports and these numbers are correct, it's hard to see, Ed, what serves as a deterrence if this doesn't serve as a deterrence.
I think since the Prime Minister made the announcement on Friday that we had secured this agreement with Papua New Guinea to have this refugee resettlement agreement in place, I think there's a move by people who are profiting off this to test the resolve of the government and of the country in tackling this scourge. And what is important now is that we all recognise that this is completely unacceptable, having people make this two-day journey, risking their lives, and that we need to send a signal. No one needs to go to Papua New Guinea if no one takes this dangerous trip. And so while they may try and test whether or not they can get away with things, Kieran, we need to show and demonstrate that this will not occur.
So do you think, Ed Husic, that we might be seeing here an attempt by people smugglers to rush through as many boatloads as they can, regardless of the weather conditions, as we've seen tragically overnight? There were very heavy seas, apparently, and a boat of more than 170 which has sunk.
I think we'll have people that are profiting off this that don't make this trip themselves, mind you. They will try and get more people on boats and get them here. And the message that we're sending out loud and clear is if you take that risk, that you will be resettled. You will not be able to achieve what the people smugglers are offering. Now, and I think it's important to note that the people smugglers and the people that are profiting off this don't care if there are enough life vests on these vessels. They don't care about the seaworthiness of these vessels. They don't care about the people who are piloting these vessels, whether or not they've got the skills to navigate what you've pointed out as very rough waters between here and Indonesia. All they care about is taking that money and bringing on the next load of people that they'll make another lot of money off, and we just have to stop this.
This is obviously another unspeakable tragedy. Josh Frydenberg, your reaction to this morning?
Oh, this is so sad to all those families that are affected. Our heart goes out to them. I agree with a lot of what Ed said there, because it's the people smugglers who prey on vulnerable people, and despite the sad consequences for those who make this journey, they continue to ply their trade. However, we do not believe that the PNG proposal that Kevin Rudd has put forward is the answer. There's more holes in it, Kieran, than Swiss cheese. I mean, the fact is that those who are deemed not to be refugees will not be resettled in Papua New Guinea. Since the announcement, no one has been sent by the government to Papua New Guinea. In fact, more people have arrived by boat in the last few days since the announcement than actually Manus Island can hold. And, you know, we don't think children and families will end up in Manus Island. So I just don't think this is the answer or the silver bullet that Kevin Rudd was proposing, and we believe we need a series of strong domestic proposals and policies that will act as a sufficient deterrent. And that's why we've put up our alternative plan. And, you know, what we've seen from the government in the last few days is these very expensive ads that are running in all the Australian newspapers. They're clearly not getting the message across to the people smugglers in Indonesia and elsewhere. We've seen a very unfortunate riot in Nauru, you know, $60 million of damage. There's chaos right across the detention network, whether it's in Villawood or Christmas Island or Darwin or Manus and Nauru. And, you know, Tony Burke is the third Minister for Immigration in just 6 months. I mean, the government has no answers to this. It came up with a quick political fix, and, you know, PNG will not stop the boats.
Josh Frydenberg, what do you say to Ed Husic's argument a bit earlier that this reflects, more than likely reflects, people smugglers testing the resolve of the government on this tough new policy, that's what we're seeing? Far from not hearing it, they've heard it, the message loud and clear, and they're testing it.
Well, the people smugglers know what the coalition knows and what the Australian people know, which is the government can't implement this proposal. As I said, you know, it's got more holes in it than Swiss cheese. There is no way they're going to deal with children and women. There is no way they're going to deal with people who are deemed not to be refugees on Manus. There's clearly not the capacity on Manus to house the people who are coming by boat. I mean, the people smugglers know as well as we do that even with tents put on Manus Island, you could take only up to 12 boatloads boatloads of people in terms of the numbers that it can house. So it's not a long-term solution. It's not even a short-term solution. It's more rhetoric from the government, which, you know, doesn't stand the test of close scrutiny.
The whistleblower... OK, Ed, you want to respond? I'll let you do that before we move on.
Just very quickly, Kieran, what we're seeing is the political interest of the coalition joining hands with the commercial interest of people smugglers to...
Oh, that's ridiculous, Ed. That is ridiculous, Ed.
To will on the you know, basically... So
this is our fault?
No.
This is our fault, is it?
Is the political interest of the coalition and the commercial interest of people smugglers joined...
That's ridiculous.
...to try and undermine the agreement, and that's what's
listen
going
to
on here.
Ed, to be fair, to listen to what you're saying.
Well, how can we
60 people have died.
You know
60
exactly,
people have died,
you know exactly
and you're now pointing. And you're the government, and you're pointing the finger at the opposition. You've had 6 years to deal with this issue. Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister, has unravelled John Howard's policy.
That's fine, but I make the point very loud and clear. The political interests of the coalition and the commercial interests of people smugglers will undermine the ability to send the signal to people not to make the trip, and that's what you're doing.
All right, let's look at the Manus facilities. We're not leaving this topic, so Josh, if you'd like to make a further point, that's fine. I do want to look at the quality and the standards on Manus Island. Rod St George is a whistleblower, a former senior manager with the security company that runs the facility there, and he spoke of regular, on a daily occurrence, self-abuse cases, abuse cases where victims are kept in the same area as abusers because there's not the scope to separate them, not the facilities to separate them. Here he was last night on the SBS Dateline program, and then we'll hear from the Immigration Minister, who was also on the radio this morning.
I've never seen human beings so destitute, so helpless and so hopeless before. The detainees are quite open that there will come a time when where they will break out and that people will be killed.
Even the whistleblower himself wasn't saying shut it down. He was saying it can be fixed and these are the things that can be done to fix it, and that's what I intend to work through. I believe that we absolutely need to follow through on making sure that we have as many places available in Papua New Guinea as required for the people who want to test our resolve on the new policy.
Yeah, it's a very tough situation, Ed Husic, to try try and deal with and manage to bring those facilities up to scratch, not just for the single males there, but let alone for women and children who won't be sent there anytime soon until facilities are up to scratch in the Minister's eyes.
That's right, and we are working with the PNG government to do just that. And we're also ensuring that in terms of security, we'll have 50 Australian Federal Police officers present as well to ensure that we can fast track the security needs or meet the security needs of the facility. But it is important for us that we'll obviously be looking to ramp up very quickly to provide that accommodation and resettlement support to ensure that we can have this agreement in place quickly. Again, no one needs to go to PNG, no one needs to go to Manus, no one needs to go to Nauru if they don't make that trip, and that's the signal that we're trying to send across the region to ensure that we have no more events like we've had this morning, and that we can also, importantly, Kieran, have in place a mechanism to help those people that have been stuck in camps for so long find a way out. And if we're able to improve the way in which we assist people, we've indicated that we're prepared to lift the total humanitarian intake to 27,000 in line with the Houston report. So there's a lot that we can achieve, but we need to make sure we stop the people that are profiting off this from continuing their trade.
Josh Frydenberg, Tony Abbott has argued very strongly over recent years that the key needs to be to take the sugar off the table, as President Udiono once described it. But by removing any prospect of settlement in Australia, isn't that the ultimate removal of incentive to try and seek asylum via those dangerous boat journeys?
But the government's policy just won't work. I mean, there are so many holes in this announcement between Papua New Guinea and Australia. I mean, they will not take people who are deemed not to be refugees. They reserve the right to reject even people who are deemed to be refugees based on criminal backgrounds or health checks and the like. We know that women and children will not be going, as you say, to Manus Island anytime soon. I mean, there's a very simple point here, Kieran. When Kevin Rudd, our Prime Minister today, came into power at the end of 2007, we had a policy that worked. He unravelled that policy. For 6 years, we've had disaster after disaster. We've got more than 22,000 people in detention, nearly 2,000 children. We've had hundreds of lives lost at sea. We've had a $10 billion blowout. This is not the opposition's fault. I mean, and for Ed, with all due respect, to be pointing the finger at the opposition today, I mean, it's just so unacceptable. They are the government. They were elected by the Australian people to deal with this issue, and
Josh,
they're
I don't
not
care
dealing
if you
with
accept
it
it or not, frankly. I mean, the fact of the matter is that you guys are trying to poke at the agreement with crossed fingers, hoping that this will fall over. And as a result of that, you're sending a signal to people smugglers that use that
It's
in
our
whipping
fault.
up trade. No, well, you have to accept responsibility at some point. I mean, we are here trying to make very difficult decisions in terms of stopping people from crossing and making that 2-day journey. And as I said, earlier, your political interest is combined with the commercial interest of people smugglers. It's unacceptable. And I know I'll get heat for making that statement, but frankly, I don't care. What's more important to me is stopping people from making this trip. In all conscience, we cannot have people continue to lose their lives and disappear in those oceans. And if you want to play games, play games. But
we don't. Yeah.
Well, then, if you don't want to play games, Josh, and look, I'm not saying this necessarily. We've had a number of discussions about this, but the fact of the matter is there are people in your camp that are prioritising things above the need for us to get this to make a political point, rather than joining with us in making sure we basically close down this trade.
Well, we've got to close it down. I totally agree.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back and we'll look at other issues, including debate around the NBN and the growing budget black hole. Stay with us.